6 o'clock.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence. And as we do, if you could remember in your thoughts and prayers the Tappa family who lost their son this weekend suddenly. Mary Beth, when we were talking about this weekend, there were 3 sudden deaths on Friday, actually, that the police department had to deal with. And Mary Beth reminded me that February apparently is a month in which this happens with some regularity. February is not only the shortest month, but apparently the cruelest month. And I received also a phone call from Tom Evans, former principal. And years ago, when he was the elementary school principal in Norwell, he hired a young woman by the name of Kathy Boucher to be a counselor at his school. She no longer does that. She does something else now. But her mother and father were the 2 people who drowned in Easton over the weekend in the ice.
Oh, my God.
If we could remember her family also tonight. And of course, we could also keep in our minds Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'd like to announce this meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA. I'd like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like a motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Public forum, is there anyone here who would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Then we'll begin the meeting, joint meeting with the Finance Committee. Welcome. It's an important meeting tonight. I think maybe the first order of business would be to talk about something that I read about on LinkedIn earlier today that Justin knows about because he was the author of the article. It's about a motion that they took at the Hanson Board of Selectmen just recently, and Mary Beth and I and the chair of the Hanson Select Board and the chair of the Whitman School Board spoke, and we talked about that it might be a good idea for us to ask the Inspector General of Massachusetts to conduct, like he did in Brockton, to conduct a forensic audit of the school district's finances. They did so in Brockton, and I think you were involved in that conversation. You weren't. Okay. You know of it.
The conversation that you all had? Yes.
Okay. And we decided it might be it would be a good idea to do. The Inspector General has done a remarkable job in Brockton, and that it would be strong if the 2 towns and the school district got together and asked for this. Apparently, it's, from what I understand from Laura Kemet, it doesn't cost either the towns or the district anything. And they will go through what has happened of recent in the finances, in the handling of the finances in the school district, and it might help us to help the good start that you've made in seeing what's going on and how we can fix it.
And just a point of order. So I had this discussion with Ms. Kemet, and I know with you, but the school committee itself has not had a chance to actually address it. We have an audit subcommittee that will meet and discuss it. But I was speaking generally of a kind of like a favorable toward the. But I don't want to speak on behalf of the board, my committee, until they had a chance.
We haven't done it either. What I'm going to ask the board is to mirror, if they wish, the vote of the Hanson School Board to support what you all decide to do,
Yeah.
hoping that you'd agree. Okay.
I just want to be clear that I have not spoken to the school committee
Right.
has not addressed it yet.
Right.
Just like your board has not addressed it yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I would like the board to address it if they could right now. If someone would like to make a motion that we ask the Inspector General to commit to,
I'll make
Help
that
us.
motion, but may I also ask you a very quick question, just so I can be on the same page? Are we meeting with the FinCom first and then having a selectmen
we're
meeting?
meeting with we're meeting with the FinCom now.
That's what I thought.
That's right.
It just seemed like we were also doing selectmen business, forgive me, and I just wanted to make sure.
This is a joint meeting with the select.
That's what I
with the
felt.
FinCom.
And yes, if you want that, to make that motion, I will.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? And,
Yeah.
and any feedback from the FinCom?
I feel any help that we can give both towns and the school district towards being able to deal with any issues that they may have in the financial error, as far as if there's some mistakes that were made in the past, that they're not made in the future. So I think it'll open everybody's eyes.
And I'd like to say that I think that the town really wants transparency, and with new people, I think this is a perfect time for everybody to get on the same page.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Justin?
Just, yeah, the school committee's come a long way with their various subcommittees working on different areas of promoting transparency. I think this is a good step. I will say that, usually the Inspector General is brought in for criminal wrongdoing. I don't think there's any criminal wrongdoing here, but the some sunlight probably will help restore confidence in the situation.
Anyone on the, yes?
So I'm curious if this would be an audit that could be used to bring us up to date, because I know we're behind. We had some issues. I think there was a data problem a few years ago, and we're behind. It's actually caused us to have to look at financing the building of the Whitman Middle School, take over that as opposed to going through them, the planned piece. So if this would give us that additional, that would be a very nice thing to add in the discussions if you decide to go forward with this.
Oh, great, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea for transparency, and whether anything was done wrong, maybe change some processes, just to help out. I think maybe a fresh start would be great for everybody.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. I've been the liaison to the schools for as long as I've been a member of the FinCom, and I spend hours each year going over the school budget, and now I don't even know where to start. Fiscal 25 had some errors. Do we go back to fiscal 24? Do we go back to fiscal 23? So I think it would be helpful to know, when is the last time we had an accurate budget, and then when did we go off the rails, and what caused it?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it, and I think this is a worthy step and an important idea for all of us to make sure that we feel that we're moving forward in the best way possible. I do want to recognize that in the last couple of months, the folks who have begun, who've started anew, have been working incredibly hard on figuring out what happened and trying to forensically understand the mistakes of the past and all that. So I hesitate to say that this is a start. We've already started. We've
Right.
been working at this nonstop for 2 months. And we've discovered all kinds of things that we are going to be able to share in a more full way as soon as we can. But to that point, I just want to make sure that it's clear that the sins of the past, so to speak, are being examined very carefully by myself, the new business manager, and other members of the team.
Right, and that was made very clear at the last school committee meeting when you went over the stage of the budget right now.
Thanks.
Okay, any other response? Yes,
I
Mary
just
Beth.
wanted to tag on to that. I was going to say that as well, that you have done unbelievable work since you've gotten there, and the conversations that I've had with you to restore a confidence. So I look at this as another tool to assist you, but I know, what you have been doing up to this point, and it's all great work, and it is appreciated, for sure. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Seeing, hearing nothing else coming out, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Okay, here we are.
Okay.
Be my
So-
guest.
Excuse me?
Be my guest.
Okay. So we do have the fiscal '27 budget update as of today. This is, the second, third one that we've had here, but we've made some changes and adjustments, so I just want to walk through some of the work that we've done here. So the fiscal '27 budget was based primarily on 2.5% increases plus contractual step raises. All of the unions, 5 of them settled, all with a 7.5% over 3 years, but some of them had, a little more up front or a little more at the back, but all 7.5 over 3 years. The Whitman-Hanson Regional High School Assessment, we had originally just put a placeholder in of 5%, and that came out to an increase over last year's assessment in the amount of $995,878. We have looked at a revenue formula. I think it was dubbed the Justin formula here, and we did use a revenue formula last year after the override failed. So we use that formula, and basically what it's doing is it's taking our net revenue increase in '27 and taking 60% and applying 60% of that to the schools, 40% to the town. And so on top of that, for the district, we added the 60% instead of the 5%, 60% over last year, plus $140,000, which came from meals tax that we diverted to apply here. That brought the increase up to $675,357, and we'll go into the formula in more depth as we go forward. But basically, on the town side, the expenses were primarily level funded, except for any major known increases. And then I did put in a few local receipt adjustments, and we will talk about those as we move forward here. We are more conservative on our local receipts this year than we were last year. We pushed all of our local receipts estimates as far as we could. Some of them we made, some of them we didn't. Overall, the accountant was able to balance it all out, but he said, you're way too close on your estimates. So we started with a more conservative approach. So right now, using, before I made some local receipt adjustments, our total revenue in both cases is the same, $50,641,206. And our expenses, you'll see a difference there. With the 5% for the district, it's $51,673,529. With the revenue formula applied, our expenses are $51,353,007. So our current deficit with the 5% increase in the budget is a little over $1 million, $1,032,323. If we use the revenue formula, that would give a 3.39% increase to the high school, to the district, and on top of that, 60%, as I said, we added 140,000. That gets our deficit down to 711,801. So if we use this formula, the district would know their number, and then we would know for sure what our deficit is, and then what's our approach and how are we going to balance the budget with that.
Yeah, so we're only going to go through a couple slides and then we'll open up the discussion and hopefully come to consensus about this. But one of the critical decisions we need to make tonight is, are we going to stick with the 5% or a bit over 5% that Dr. Marcus has presented with his preliminary budget? Or are we going to gravitate more towards the revenue-based formula, which focuses more on how much revenue we're taking in and how to fairly proportion that? So keep that in mind as we're going through the rest of the slides to get an idea of which way you're leaning. $1 million deficit, this is based on the budget, based on these assumptions, not based on the budget that you've been going over from each department head, which you can see is the budget based on these assumptions is really sparse. Really sparse. Sort of think, even with the revenue-based formula, there's a $700,000
deficit, that kind of puts things in perspective. This isn't a good time to be a public servant right now making these decisions. So I think highlighting some principles behind the decisions that we make so that we can really feel strongly about what we're doing and why is important at this time.
So some of the assumptions for the fiscal '27 budget, as I mentioned, $140,000 of meals tax revenue we added to the revenue formula for the district. And then for local receipts adjustment, we had like 100,000 in for marijuana excise a couple of years ago, and that did not come to fruition at all. So we did see for 1 quarter a little bit of marijuana excise come in. For 1 quarter, about I think 2,600 or so. So I added 10,000 in for the budget. I think that's a very safe number for a local receipt for fiscal '27. And then our investment income estimate, I increased it from $275,000 to $475,608. So a couple of years ago, we had revenue, we had money come in for the borrowing on the bond for the DPW project. So as that project was paid down, we did earn interest on top of our regular interest on our accounts. It was over $700,000 a couple of years ago, and then it dropped to $475,608. And for '27, the accountant and consultant said $275 is an appropriate number. However, now that we've taken over the borrowing for the Whitman Middle School, I do anticipate that we'll see some good revenue on investment income. So I tried to pitch that to the accountant. We talked about that, and he said, even if you can prove you're going to come in with an additional $500,000 over to, the DOR will never go for that because, again, it's sort of like one-time money. The district is going to pay down as the project ends, and now you've put it into a recurring budget, yet you're not going to have that money. So I believe the accountant feels comfortable that, yes, we could at least restore it to the amount that we had last year of $475,608. So that helped the budget. Also, you may remember that for the fiscal free cash policy we put into place, $200,000 of our free cash each year is going towards our Plymouth County retirement unfunded liability. And that's an offset from free cash. It's a large number in our budget. I believe it's 3.8 this year. And $140,000 is going towards our OPEB unfunded liability, again, from free cash. The $200,000 for Plymouth County retirement, we're planning on doing that until the unfunded liability is paid off. Currently, it's 2031. I don't know if that will be pushed out next year or the year after. The furthest that the scale can go out is to 2040 is the furthest that you could push out the funding. But I believe that the retirement board, really wants to stick with the 2031 number. The last item here is something that is not necessarily a great idea, but it's an option. And that's the OPEB trust fund. And I mentioned to Dr. Marcus earlier today, I don't know whether you have an OPEB trust fund. However, we have been putting some money in. When I started years ago, not when I started with the town, but when OPEB became, an item, I said, well, let's put in 20,000, and I think I got 2,000. And then I said the next year, 20,000, and they gave me 5,000. And it just isn't even a drop in the bucket for your liability of 18 million or whatever it may be. So we finally came about saying we'll take the meals tax and we'll put the meals tax in. Well, the meals tax the first year was 140-ish, so we took that amount. And then it went up through COVID, and I'm like, well, I want more. I want more for OPEB because we need to start saving. And they're like, you're getting 140. So anyway, we've been consistently putting that money in. But because we have put that money into our OPEB trust fund, the only thing that you can spend that money on is for retirees' health insurance. So while the plan was never to draw this down now, we certainly could help supplement our medical and health liability insurance line, which is quite large, by infusing $240,000 from the OPEB trust fund into the budget. So not the whole line for medical life insurance wouldn't come out of the general fund. It would be offset by $240,000 that we could draw down on OPEB. It is a way, in speaking with Tom O'Brien, rather than, pushing out the funding schedule, it is an option available to us. Not a great option. We don't want to use free cash. We don't want to touch our general stabilization. However, this is an area that it's set up for retirees' health insurance premiums. Some towns have been doing it, and it is something that we could do. So I would look at that. And I did actually put that into the budget as one of the assumptions.
Yeah. The two things on this slide. The $140,000 up top to the school, that's over and above the proportion of revenue that they would receive. In a sense, that's our skin in the game and an understanding of hold harmless and how difficult that situation is for the school. So that is over and above, which is important to note. Second, this bottom one, I think getting some of your feedback would be really helpful tonight, because if the OPEB liability wasn't gonna correct itself, if we weren't gonna kind of pay off that liability in 2031 or 2032, if that wasn't gonna be the case, then we should not do this. But that is gonna be the case. It looks like in the next 5 years, we should be paying off that liability, which will open up a lot of money in our budget. So in the meantime, the question is, should we kill ourselves trying to pay that without any relief, which means that $700,000 or $1 million deficit would jump up another $200,000. So that would be personnel and services that we cut over the next 5 years just to get to that point. Or should we use a little bit of relief out of a savings account that we've been making, draw down a little bit, and then in 5 years, aggressively pay that back with the amount of money that's going to come back into the budget, which is pretty substantial. So I think our recommendation is that we do that, but it is something that should definitely be clearly looked at, and we should have a plan about how we're going to do it, and we should watch it each year so that we know, like, we could use more money than that, for instance, but we thought that would be, because of 140s coming out to go into the savings account, so we're only really using $100,000. So that's not so bad. We could use much more, but we want to make sure that we have money left over. If we could use it multiple years, we want to see when we get audited next year, what the auditors are going to say about us using it. We know it's an acceptable use, but right now we have a very good bond rating. We don't want to jeopardize any of that. So feedback in that area would be helpful, sure.
What's the balance on that trust fund?
On the OPEB? I believe
What
it's,
has been making each year?
on the OPEB, I believe it's 2.7, and I do have that with me. Let's see. The OPEB, no, I'm sorry, it's 2.217804.
And that's invested?
That is invested, and that is a more aggressive fund because it's long-term.
So-
And, go ahead.
Sorry. So that's what's currently in there, and that was just basically over and above the 140 that we've been doing every year from the meals tax? Is that
So
correct?
that includes, that's the 140 that we've been putting in, like I said, it was a
Oh, okay,
2,000,
we're putting it
5,000.
in.
Goes into this fund.
Just
What-
building it up. That's the OPEB. So I think when Sean mentioned that it would be paid off in 2031, that's the Plymouth County retirement unfunded liability. And once that's paid off, I mean, for the budget now, I think we have 3.8 in there. So we don't want to free up that money for the general fund budget, of course. We need to attack our next big unfunded liability, which is OPEB.
So
But
that,
Yep.
just to emphasize that, so the Plymouth County retirement line will be at over $5 million in 5 years. And then it's going to drop down to like $1 million, or what's the normative cost now, like 900,000 or something?
The normal cost.
normal cost,
Right,
yeah.
so if 3.8, say it's 380,000 or something, it will be substantially lower, although we can't infuse that money just into the budget. We
Right.
need to take a good chunk of it, because when we do get rated for borrowings, they really look at your reserves, and they really look that you're paying down your unfunded liabilities, so.
So if it happened this year, the line would go from 3.8 whatever to like $400,000. That's how much money is going to come onto the books or come off the books once that's paid.
Okay, so, let's see. All right, so now the net revenue increase. To come to that number, what we did is we looked at the 2.5% that we're allowed to add to our levy each year, which this year is $821,058. And then we have new growth at $200,000. So the subtotal there is a little over $1 million, $1,021,058. What we wanted to then look at is our revenue from other sources. And for 27, you'll notice it was $11,202,182, which is lower than what we brought in 26, which was $11,303,978. So the difference, we're down $128,796. So we deducted that number from our revenue of the 2.5% in new growth, and that left us $892,261. It's that number that we applied the 60% of that towards the district, and then added $140,000 for meals tax to arrive at the number that we did for the increase in the district's assessment.
Yeah, and hopefully, Mary Beth will probably hit on this a little bit more, but we're watching closely those local receipts still. So excise tax was still waiting for another commitment to come in to get more feedback on that. Trash was still waiting for some more feedback to make sure that we're getting appropriate collections on that. So we're watching some of those local receipts closely. So this is fairly conservative, but it's still upside down. That's why it's, if we were just making the 2.5 and the new growth, it'd be closer to $1 million, but we're still upside down on those local receipts. So.
And I will touch on that when we move forward here. But our major expenses, and they're pretty much the same every year, Plymouth County retirement, sorry about that, is huge. And that has an increase this year of 7.28%, or $260,150. Our medical and health insurance, right now I have that at 11%. There was supposed to be a meeting last week. It got canceled at the last minute. Where they're actually setting the rates for the actives. The reason I have 11% in is because the retirees portion did go up 11%, but then we have the actives. Mayflower Municipal Health Group, it's a joint purchase group, and we are part of that, and they are performing like one of the best in the country right now. If you look at GIC rates, you look at Maya rates, they were anywhere from 12 to 20% last year, and we came in at 6.75% on our actives. And the reason that Mayflower Municipal Health Group is able to do that is because they've invested very well, and they put a portion of their reserves towards the actives cost to keep it down. So I'm hoping, they told me to budget 10 on the actives. I'm hoping that once again, I know they will plan to use some reserves, but when they come in with the final numbers, I'm hoping that I can lower that to maybe 9%. That will give more money into the budget, more local receipts that will then, again, if we're using the formula, will increase the district's assessment and help with our bottom line. We have the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District assessment that we talked about. The placeholder was 5%, and the formula is 3.39. South Shore Votech actually came in with a negative 3.25%. They had originally told me to level fund for this year, and then Tom Hickey said, no, you can actually take off $53,573. So that's great, but of course we want to keep in mind, and I will bring it up again, that we didn't put the debt exclusion forth last year, so we do have to have that this spring. It passed overwhelmingly, with the towns for the project, but we do have to have the debt exclusion. We have to have that passed. Otherwise, we still owe it. It would just have to come out of our operating budget, which would be a huge hit. And then, of course, we have a solid waste disposal, and that did have an increase this year, 5.71%. Or an increase of $103,582. So those are some of the big ticket items that impact our budget each and every year.
And if you've been following the news, the local news from around the South Shore, this is something that every community is struggling with. Health insurance is killing people. The Plymouth County retirement is really hitting everybody hard. The declining enrollment is hurting a lot of communities, so it's not like there's nothing crazy to understand about this. I think the variables are known, but you combine that with low new growth, and it's just a difficult time for the budget for those reasons.
Okay, so some key local receipts, revenue and expenses. These are things that I'm watching. I want to increase our 2026 excise local receipts. However, the bills just went out. They're not even due until March 10th. So of course, the accountant's like, I have nothing to base an increase on until we
paid mine.
have that. There we go. Until we see that due date.
Paid my excise tax.
And then if we see, I will say that we did compare the first commitment of 2026 to the first commitment of 2025. The increase, there was one, it wasn't that great, it was about 53,000 or so. However, it was an increase. So I'm hoping that we can bump up our excise commitments once we get by the due date and take a look again at where we are for collections. The fiscal year 2027 trash revenue, again, I asked the accountant to look at that to see if they could up that for me. And I don't want them to go out of their comfort zone of where we were last year because it was too close. But I did want to look at it and say, okay, does this support a little bit of a bump up? And so they said, well, we'll look, end of January, no. And here we are, mid-February. They'll look at the end of the month again and see, and then they'll look again in March. But I'm hoping, because the rates did go up, that we'll be able to increase that. And as I mentioned, the medical health insurance, that will be set on the 23rd of February. So I will be able to make an adjustment depending on what happens there. I do have new growth being reviewed. And the reason I put that up there is I did a look back for the past 10 years, and our new growth for the first 7, 8 years always came in at least at the amount of our building permits for the year, and many years exceeded that. The past 2 years, that was not the trend. So I did ask the gentleman from Catalyst to look at it, and I also asked the interim assessor just to take a look at that again. I also wanted to bump up new growth for this year. It's at 200,000. I was hoping that we could bump that up, but it doesn't look like we can. I just want to now see, is there any amended growth that we could capture? No promises there, but we're looking at everything. And just keep in mind that any revenue, increases in revenue, if we're using the formula approach, will increase both the town and their assessment and the bottom line for the town, the districts and the town. Yep.
Yeah, so I think key takeaway here is if we were being cautiously optimistic, maybe at like an additional $200,000. That would be a bit of a stretch, but that's what we'd kind of be hoping for. If things don't come back the way that we hoped, then it's not obviously that. But if we're being cautiously optimistic, this could take another $200,000 off the deficit roughly. That's, don't quote me on that in the future, but high level, that's kind of what we're hoping.
If I may, as far as the new growth is concerned, in the past, you would see on Route 18 and Route 14, all these developments of, duplexes and whatever. I don't see that coming anymore. I don't know if
There was a slowdown the
Yeah.
past few years, without a doubt.
Right.
But now, if you look, we have the big project, there's the condos
Yeah.
with the stores on the bottom over here on South Avenue.
Yeah.
There's the one downtown on Washington Street.
Yep.
And then there's one on Harvard Street that Steve Egan is doing, a large project there as well. So I'm really hoping that that will help our bottom line with our new growth. But I agree with you.
Yeah. We're running out of space.
So this sort of ends the presentation portion, and now we can get into more of the discussion. So we have the current fiscal year 2027 budget. We can talk about that. We can get into the proposed revenue formula. I do have a slide on that. Also, public safety override requests. That was something that came to me from Chief Hanlon on Friday, I believe. Might have been Thursday afternoon. So I'll review that. And then the ATM warrant and Article 2. I want to touch on that a little bit in our discussion because when we had an override 2 years ago, when we talked about it, we had a multi-column Article 2. People found that very confusing. So last year, we just put through one warrant and then came back with a second warrant after the override failed. The Whitman Middle School debt, just to give you a little update there, we did have our rating call last Thursday afternoon with Moody's. We will receive the rating on February 24th. I'm hoping that our rating stays status quo. That would be ideal. And we do have a lot of debt right now because we have the DPW. We have the Whitman Middle School. Whether we were the issuers of the Whitman Middle School debt or the district remained the issuer, it was still debt that we were responsible for. And then, of course, we all know we have the debt exclusion pending as well. And then I want to talk about a 5-year capital plan. That is something that we want to look into. We did look for a quote on that to have OCPC do a 5-year capital plan. That did come in at $30,000 to do a very detailed plan, and we've reached out to the Collins Center, so I'm looking at that as well. And I also reached out to another town and took a look at their plan. They sent to me to see if that was anything that we could adopt and modify. So, any questions on the budget?
Yeah,
Do we
I have
wanna start there?
another question, Mary Beth. Okay, the high school, has that been paid off?
The high school, the last debt payment is this year.
Okay, police station,
That's, I believe, 2030.
all right. Is there any other large projects that are ending?
No, most of the other debt is water and sewer.
Yeah.
It's mainly, and so no, then we have our new DPW building.
Yeah.
That's new, and we're just starting that. So
Right.
we do have the last year on the high school, and the next one to roll off, 2030, 2031, is the police station.
station.
Yeah, I believe it's 2030.
We're carrying the debt for the high school in our budget. Is there something else that I'm missing?
No, so you were the issuer of that, but on our particular debt schedule, we have to, we put that in as a payment to the district. So we carry it on our debt schedule. But it's truly, as far as audits and reporting, it is the district's debt. Yeah.
Yeah, so the bottom couple were just updates, really. The couple decisions that we'd like to kind of really formally address tonight is proposed revenue formula. We should have a discussion about that and reach some sort of consensus. Your feedback from you guys recently has been you want a budget early that you can really thoroughly go through, deliberate about, and give us some formal recommendations on. In order for that to happen, that's a critical decision, because if we don't make that decision, then we stay in limbo, going back and forth, and we're not quite sure. And
Bless you.
it can be really difficult. Whereas if we do, and there are reasons why we may not want to, but if the group is in favor of doing so, then we can move forward with the budget and calculate it pretty quickly to get that process going. So I think that's a critical first discussion we should have.
So I could just, go ahead.
I was gonna talk about the split.
Right, I was just.
Where that kind of came
as well.
from.
Yep.
So for the benefit of the FinCom and the school representatives here, to calculate that 60-40 split, I know it sounds a lot like the pupil percentage. That's not where it comes from. It is, I basically took what the current school budget was, added 2% growth on that, took the current town budget, added 2% growth on the non-school portion of the town budget, what that total increase was, and applied it so that the 60-40, it's actually 59-41, but 60-40 was cleaner, so we were going with that number. It means that the school and the town can both grow at the same rate. So assuming everything's level service, which is probably not a great assumption given the cuts last year, but it means that we can continue to provide the same services and grow at the same rate for both entities. I think I did a couple other calculations how it could shift, and Sean talked about the meals tax being applied to the schools as sort of the hold harmless kicker, adder, whatever you want to do. And that lowest calculation was actually an earlier revenue number to get to the 5.25% number. But so you can toss out that negative 55% growth for the town.
So basically, I did put the net revenue of 892, 261 in that revenue column in yellow, the first number there. And then I highlighted the 60%. So 60% of that number would go to the district, and that's where I circled it in red. That's what the number comes out to for the district before we added the 140,000 to it. So it came out at 2.69%, and then we added the 140 in the meals tax revenue. That brought it up to 3.39. So that's how we arrived at that.
The reason why I think a formula is helpful is because there's been so much tension in our community over this. How do we know how much is fair and how much isn't fair? And we've had consultants come in to give us feedback about this over the years, and it's always been difficult for people to cleanly say this is what we should or shouldn't do. You know, people can make arguments, just like when a department head comes into your meeting and says there's all these reasons why they deserve more money, and there are real reasons why people are underfunded right now, and the school has some huge deficits that they need to address. They have some services that aren't provided for the kids right now that are critical. It's terrible. But we only have a certain amount of revenue to disperse. So if we don't have a clear understanding of how we disperse that revenue, then things are going to fall apart, I think, again. School advocates are going to fight on one hand, public safety advocates are going to fight on another. You know, other special interests can just muddy the waters. And if we don't have a clean reason why we're doing what we're doing, then we also fall apart. And I'm not saying this has to definitely be the formula. I think it definitely has some merit, but something like this that we can gravitate towards, I think will help us.
Yeah, if you're looking for a little feedback now, I've been on this committee for quite a few years, and when times were a little better, it was a little easier. But the last 4 or 5 years have been really hard, and I think it's a good idea to gravitate towards something like this for many reasons. You know, one, to the transparency, and so town schools can grow together. That's something that's, you know, been a sore spot over the years. And the fact that we have a lot of new people here, and I know back with Mr. Capocci and Mike Mincello and some of them, we had a good week or two to sit down and really take a good look at this and, you know, offer some more insight and thought after hearing all the presentations from all the budget managers. You know, they came in, they told us what they thought they needed and what would help. The last 4 or 5 years, it's been down to the wire. We haven't really been able to look at that. It's like everything we worked for during the year, we really couldn't apply it, in my opinion. So I think whether that's the formula number, I think in order to give us a point where we don't have to wait until March, the end of March or something, I think it would be very helpful. That's one of the reasons. And I think it would be great for everybody to feel that we're all working together.
But I think there's a secondary issue on that too, which Chuck just brought out, which right now, without knowing what that number is, every department is fighting every other department. All right? It comes down to a street fight. Right? Give it to me because this is what I'll give you. Now, again, I don't disagree with their reasoning behind what they're coming to us, but if we at least have a number and say, look, this is where we're looking at, now you know what the bucket is that you can draw from, and look at it from a more fair perspective. Then we come down to a merit discussion rather than a my department versus your department, my service versus your service, which is kind of where we're at now. That also allows us then to go back to the taxpayers and say, here's the budget based on what we have. If you value a certain thing, whether it's more teachers in the school, more firefighters, whatever, now they have something specific that they're looking at rather than just a general ask. That's my thoughts.
That's a good point.
What was the split last year? We're doing 60-40 this year. What was it last year?
Same thing.
No, it was probably closer to that 2/3. Last year we did it in reverse. We level serviced everybody, went for the override to meet the difference, and then had to cut $2 million. So
More like 70-30?
Actually, no, it was 50-50. It was $1 million had to be cut from each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was based on level service. It'd be hard to kind of do that calculation in reverse, right?
We split the deficit,
Right.
not the revenue.
We split the deficit, not the
What
revenue.
would the revenue be last year?
It's a good question.
Somewhat close. It's still under $1 million, or like close to $1 million.
Yeah.
And it came out to be a little over 4%.
Actually, I have that right here as well for the district's number.
It's like 800,000 something to district last year.
The district had an increase of 781,882, a 4.09% increase based on the formula that we used last year. And of course, it's a larger number this year, right?
So they got 781 last year?
They got 781,882.
So they got like 70-something last year?
I don't know if that's quick because
Yeah.
we had to cut $1 million
Right.
from the deficit. Yeah. So it.
So my other thing is, it's really not a 60-40 split, but the school's getting another 140,000, so it's more like a 70-30.
Correct. It would be more
Right.
like what,
We
65.
applied the 60/40 on the net revenue and then added, correct,
Then added 140.
correct.
There are ways that, like the school district does have free cash, their E&D, that they can use periodically when they feel like it's appropriate. They also, there's a certain amount of money, say, when the state budget wraps up is usually just after town meeting, so there's a little bit more money after. Was there's a couple $100,000 last year? There was, so they would kind of get that, and there's things like that that are similar on our end. We're using some money for Plymouth County retirement offset, so it seems we try to take that into consideration. We're not just trying to make things advantageous for the school. We're trying to also think about how do we cut down on the Plymouth County retirement liability? How do we cut down on some of the medical insurance on our end?
What worries me is cutting similar to the town side as we did last year, it's gonna wipe out our department. In my opinion, I mean, we made some drastic cuts last year. A lot of layoffs. And what are we gonna cut?
Yeah, this next stage is,
Wipe out our department.
this next stage of trying to figure out how do we actually cut $500,000 to $700,000 if we went with the revenue formula is going to be terrible. What does that look like with our departments?
But once we know that number, that makes it, the process, and not down to between our May meeting and our June 11th meeting.
Yeah.
And the year before that, I think the schools can give us their final number in March sometime. So therefore, then we went, it's like, oh my goodness, and then we started the whole process and had to go back and forth. It pushed it way too late. So this way, if we know whatever formula we're using, what that formula is, we know the district's amount, the rest is ours.
Yeah.
But at least we know what we're working with. You're right. I mean, certainly, we laid off one in the clerk's office. There's no one else there, really to lay off. There's one in the assessors we laid off. We laid off somebody at the Council on Aging. We reduced a part-timer at the library, and then the 2 fire, 2 police, and 1 DPW, so.
Although the 2 fire, 2 police is a good
They
point
got
that,
restored.
Yeah, they got restored by free cash in the spring.
Right.
I do have a thought. I don't know if it's an appropriate time to bring it up, but there are jobs that are coming up to be vacated, and it might be a time to think about looking to not hire anyone and keep a hiring freeze. It's a way to not hurt anybody's feelings. And certainly a vacated position, then you're not dealing with the benefits and such until we get back on our feet, a little bit better in a few years, 5 years. Might be something to think about.
Add to that, Laura, is, if my company doesn't do well, I don't get a raise.
Oh, I'm all for getting rid of the raise already. Frank had done that in the past.
I know, and I don't want to do that to anybody, because I
Right.
don't like what it's done to me, right? But I am thinking formulaically, there may be a way for us to look at that, rather than just say, pluck 2.5%, because that's what we can raise our taxes by. That's what it is. if we're going to something like this, we could come back and apply a formula to that. Apply a formula to all of the department pieces underneath it, so that they aren't just looking and saying, well, I'm going to get X percent, because that's where I got the last 20 years. No, you're going to get it based upon the revenue numbers, and it might be more than that, it might be less than that, but it allows the scalability of your entire budget.
I think that's definitely intrigued by that. I would just say it may be helpful to have you sit in with some of our negotiations piece or loop you in so that you are getting some of the feedback from organizations like JLMC. JLMC is, I mean, you could explain this better than me, but the overseeing body for local negotiations between union and management. And
For the public safety side.
yeah, and basically, there is no way they would ever support right now in the current environment in Massachusetts, like no raises. So if we could have that policy here and we could feel very strongly about it, if they took it all the way to the end, then, you know, what they would grant is what we'd have to keep. So we're kind of bound by that a little
And
bit.
that's where you get into the negotiation side, which is, all right, we'll go there, but it means cutting headcount now.
Yep. Yeah.
I just want to real quick say that's why we should look at anyone that is leaving and having a hiring freeze, because I agree with Sean. I am too old school, and I really did think that we could all just put our feet in the ground and say, we don't need a raise. And unions and people like that are tough as in laws.
But not everyone that works for the town is union either. So,
I'm
right,
not,
so-
and
I'm saying.
if you take away my 2.5, I won't be offended or hurt at all.
Yeah,
I
you can have
promise.
mine too.
I just want to be a wet blanket about this, but the whole Whitman Select Board is here and the whole FinCom is here. The whole school committee is not here. I'm here representing the whole committee. So while, and I'm a new chair, and we have a new acting superintendent and a new business manager, and we're obviously very committed, I think, to working with the two towns. I just want to be clear, the school committee sets the assessment. So you guys can make a decision tonight, and my committee could say no. So in terms of this thing, like, if you guys think you're going to come out of this with a clear number of these things, you're not, because the school committee is its own entity that will make its own decision about the assessment. Like I said, I'm committed as a chair to working with both the towns, the FinComs of the towns. I know Dr. Marcus is the same, to work to try and make this as equitable as possible. But I just want to be clear that we are our own entity that will make the decision about the assessment. So just hearing the discussion about, like, well, we'll make a decision tonight and everyone will know, I just want to be clear that we will set our assessment on the 18th of March. And I can't tell you what that will be, because I'm only one member of that 10-person committee. So I just want to make that clear before we get too far into these discussions.
That, you can go through me instead of just pretending that you're the chair. Ryan, you're right. You're absolutely right. One of the advantages of being a district school committee is it does make that decision. It makes a decision on what each of the towns is assessed. And that was the beauty of combining Whitman and Hanson into one district. I can remember when there was a K through 8, a 9 to 12, two K through 8s and a 9 to 12. I was on the K through 8, and we were so jealous of the 9 to 12 being able to assess the towns, because we had to send our budget to a town meeting, and every single person that worked for the school committee had to have his or her salary voted on at a town meeting. And that was hard. That was hard as a school committee member to have to go through all of that. You're right. You're absolutely right. And
I'm not saying this to be
No,
like,
I know. No, I know.
whatever.
No, I know.
I want to be realistic here, because
It's a fact.
there's not 10 of us here. I'm
I
here
know.
by myself. I can't make any promises to you about what.
But thank you for seriously. Thanks for reminding us that. And during this discussion, I'm also reminded of my very first year at Massasoit Community College as a teacher, which was too many years ago. It was in 1972, and I went for 3.5 years without a raise. The union was beginning at that time. 3.5 years without a raise, and that was normal across the state. But now it's accepted that you have a union. The union fights for you, and the union fights well for you. But That's right. We live in a different world now. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you may speak.
Thank you. I apologize if I was not in line with the decor.
That's what this is,
The,
by the way.
I think that it's a valid point. I think the trouble that we've had in the past is who takes the first step? You know, if we just take a step tonight and say, this is what we've been rolling around with and here's why, and we have a thorough, rationale as to why, then when the school committee meets, then they can deliberate about that because then, they can get some feedback from our meeting. Then you guys can talk about it and give us some feedback. Whereas if we don't take a step, then we're both kind of in limbo. You know what I mean? And they're waiting on us and we're waiting on them and it comes right down to the end. So I think it shouldn't prevent us from giving some feedback, even if it's a bit assertive, like this is kind of like where we're at right now and this is kind of what we want to stand behind. And then you guys can deliver. I mean, if we could have, maybe next year we should have the whole school committee here too as well, so we can have more of a discussion. But I think it is important that we do take a step forward. It doesn't mean it's going to be the step that we stay with no matter what, but it's a step that we're moving forward with. Then you guys can give us some more feedback and we can go back and forth. Hanson's also, we've tried to loop Hanson in on this, so we have reached out to Laura Kemet and their financial team, so hopefully they'll also be able to give us some feedback, because we can't do anything without them as well, so.
Superintendent, yes.
A couple things. Folks talked about cuts. I just want to make sure we're clear that the school department, which I wasn't in charge of at the time, but last year we made cuts. This year we cut 23 people, and next year in the proposed budget that you have is a cut of 9 people. So please know that the concept of coming in lean is very much a part of what we talked about. Second, I want to make sure about the 60-40 concept. I've been an educational leader now in Stoughton, Sharon, Easton, and Norton. Easton as a resident. And we love to talk about 60-40. It's the thing that everybody loves to go back to. And it's 61-38 or 60, we bat these numbers around all the time. There is no definitive specific formula on what it is that actually makes sense. What 60-40 or any particular formula says is what the community thinks about education and your value on the education for your kids in your town. And if you hold to something like that and say, well, if you want to give a rationale for 60-40, okay, I think that's great. But there are plenty of towns that aren't holding fast to that 60-40 concept. There needs to be a rationale behind that, so I understand the idea, but I want to make sure that as somebody who's now been through these debates about budgets in a variety of different places, it's not quite as simple as, well, the school is about 60% and the town is about 40%. It's more complicated than that. Third, to the point that was just made, in one of the towns where I was superintendent, we had a tri-board meeting. I know it's a little complicated where it's a district, it's a regional district, and so it complicates things with a couple of towns. But to what Chair Tressel said, I think it's actually incredibly important. We started my first year in that district having a tri-board meeting where the select board, the finance committee, and the school committee all got together and had a conversation about where are we, what's going on, and what is the outlook for this coming year. And I think that was actually a really important thing to do. I know it's complicated because of the regional, but I do think that's important.
Thank you.
May I
Yes.
say something? Okay.
I agree with Sean about taking a step forward. We need to.
Yeah.
I think we basically do it every year, but maybe not in this open forum. This is Whitman, and, the towns you just compared us to are a little different. So with the history of the finances the last few years and the way the voters voted last year, I think you could see a trend. I've been on the committee for many years, and I have seen the school budget. I have seen us go from very low support to 2.5 to jumping up when the need was there to 4, 4.5, 5. And obviously, things don't look good right now with the way the budget was handled from our current superintendent, who's still with us. So there's a lot of questions out there. And this is Whitman. You're going to have to look and see what the town will support. And I think there's a lot of people out there who feel that they haven't got their bang for the buck. We want to educate our kids, but something has gone awry over the last few years, 4 or 5 years. And the money's been going in there, and the great education hasn't been coming out, in my opinion. I mean, the education is good, but just the fact that we've had to make these cuts and we have a lot of administrators. My 2 kids went to school. They graduated, went to college, got great jobs. I'm proud to say that they went to these schools. But we have had quite a problem here the last few years, in my opinion. So, but I think a first step is a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to go to Ryan and then to,
So, your point is well taken. Like I said, I'm a new chair. I'm a new school committee member. I was elected in May. Dr. Marcus started in January. We're committed to working with these boards. I was just making the point because people were making comments before about we're going to leave tonight with a sense of what those numbers are. I think certainly you guys will give us feedback and we'll take that back to our committee, but I just wanted to be just clear that I cannot guarantee you that our assessment is going to come in at the level that you guys decide, that you guys decide to support tonight. We're going to set an assessment based on what we think, again, with consultation, feedback from both towns and both communities and the FinComs of both towns, we'll take those into consideration, but we have a charge. I was elected by the voters of Whitman to support the educational needs of the students, and so we are going to pass an assessment that we think meets those needs as best we can. And like I said, I'm only one person on the board, so I can't make any kind of guarantees. So while your points are well taken, and like I said, all the feedback we'll get tonight will go back to my committee, and will be part of our discussions as we go forward. I think I was just hearing a lot of like we're gonna walk away tonight knowing exactly what the budget is going to be and all those other things. And I just wanted to make that just kind of clear that there are still many steps to go on our part, and I can't speak for my committee.
Can I have one quick follow-up question?
sure.
Forgive me, but is there any reason why we get the school assessments so late? Is there any way that could come earlier?
I think
I know the governor sets the budget and everything in February, but is there any way that could happen earlier?
My understanding is that it has to be 45 days before the town meeting, which is what puts us at that mid-March date. I believe it's March 20th this year. Our meeting is, I think, the 18th, which is a Wednesday that we'll be putting the assessment. I think that's a discussion. I mean, I don't think that's a discussion for this year, given we're now talking a month away. I mean, that's certainly something that could be discussed. I think, to Dr. Marcus's point, I think, and granted, who knows what will happen in May when my board reorganizes again. I might not be chair anymore, but I think that it would be a very good idea, I think, if, to starting these discussions in the fall and not here in February, and starting to work in a tri-board situation, I think would be ideal, because I think that obviously we are hampered, I think, by the situation that occurred in November, and then obviously the change in leadership that happened starting in January, that we are already kind of far behind where we should be at this point. Dr. Marcus has done Herculean effort to get a budget put together starting beginning in January and presenting it, but basically a month later, and having to deal with the morass of what was the 26 budget. But to your point, I think that would definitely be a good goal to look forward to in maybe starting next year, to start this process a lot earlier in the fall with all the stakeholders, so that we could get this information to you guys earlier. I think that's a well taken point.
I respectfully disagree, not with all of what you said, but we could have had this discussion in October. We could have been on the same page that the school needs a whole lot more than they're getting. And we could also have the discussion about the fire department and the police department and recreation and the pool and that kind of stuff. Our departments need more money. I think we're on the same page about that. The question is, how do we distribute the small amount of money that we have, and how do we do that fairly? We didn't just randomly come up with a 60-40, we didn't start with the 60-40 and then distribute that way. if I understand correctly, we looked at currently the way the budget is dispersed and simply try to keep that as we move forward. So over the years, as you said, our budget is a reflection of the town's priorities in a sense, and the leadership. And what has given rise has been the current disbursement of budget size. So if we compare the town and with the school, the town less the school assessment is about, and we're comparing it to the school budget, there would be a 60-40 disbursement. So we're just looking to keep the same as we move forward, as we disperse funds. That's the rationale behind it. So not like we're trying to lean one way or the other, or we came up with a random rule 60-40, keeping the status quo and then either moving ahead together or cutting together with the same status quo in mind. So.
Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Tressel. I want to acknowledge that the Select Board knows that they can't give you an assessment. They can say no to the assessment and it wasn't always that way. My first year, I think I was on this board, was in 2019, and it took a long time for the full board to understand that the school committee sets the assessment, and we voted up or down. We don't say, no, we're only going to give you half of that, or 3% of that, or 10% of that. I also want to encourage you to advocate for the budget that you need for the children, because you are the advocates for education, just as the fire chief is the advocate for fire safety and the police chief is the advocate for police safety. So I don't take it as adversarial. I think having these numbers in front of us so that the schools don't come in with, we need a 20% increase. Well, based on what? That would be, it can't happen. So you have the numbers that we all have, and but that doesn't mean don't go for what you need to support the education of the children. And I think we're miles ahead of where we were a few years ago. The information is out much sooner. There's a much better sense of communication among the boards, and I know that there are people who think that the schools should get everything first that they need, and then whatever is left over goes to the town, and that's a really unpopular position to have. If you're a firefighter or a librarian, it's like, who are we? No, we're not important to the town. So I think that these, the fact that these are, number one, they're cordial. These meetings are cordial, respectful, acknowledge the hard work that everybody does, and we all realize this town is not inclined to support a Proposition 2.5 override based on last year, but it doesn't mean that with additional education and a more modest request, if there's this much of a gap instead of a $2 million gap, that might be something that could be sold. I'm always a wishful thinker, so I want to encourage you to, although we may not be able to support the budget you submit because it won't allow us to recommend a balanced budget at town meeting, I encourage you to stick to your commitment to the school children.
Dan just told me that I've been looking to the left too often, which is what I do. But Laura wanted to say something.
I worked for many years, 25 years actually, with Ben Puritz, who managed Sharon. And I have to respectfully agree, Whitman is a lot different. But from Ben Puritz and everything I learned from that gentleman, a true leader, I feel our town is really strong and cares about everyone. It's sadly, because I'm a high-risk care worker by nature or by trade or whatever you want to say, I care more about the mental health of people and what message we give out in these meetings, although few watch them. But what the message we give out is you care more about this or that. And I heard it said, and I know I've heard it from somebody else online, but we fund what we care about. That is absolutely a message I wish and I employ for you all to take down, because we don't. We care about everything, and we really care about kids and everything, but we can only fund what we can afford. And I'm all for, I felt really bad, although I did motion it, but I want to make clear, I'm all for auditing every department. I'm all all for no more $500 pencils. You know, I'm more for volunteering. But I just hope that you think, especially with the recent tragedies and with everything that we see on TV, the world is not a safe place always anymore. And if we could come together as Whitman people, whether you lived here forever or 5 minutes, I could care less, but if we could come together with one goal for Whitman and maybe think of a new slogan, because I don't want any child, young adult, anyone to think that anyone in this room or anywhere in the town as employee doesn't care about children. But I respectfully say that knowing your position as well to care for these children, which I applaud you.
And anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing,
Danny.
Kyle. We have the school, we have, you know, the main big, largest budgets are the town budgets and the school budget. And basically, as I always say, town meeting votes. And with town meeting votes to do, we do. It's that simple. But the schools are important, and so isn't the town. I mean, town cannot operate without police, fire, DPW, town hall, library, whatever, senior center. Everybody's important, just like the schools. They're important. But as I say, whenever the budgets are put together and we go to town meeting, it's their decision. It's their town. So, that's how I look at it.
Dr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Ms. Carter's had her hand up for a little while. I just wanted to.
Really?
Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, just quickly, just the past couple of years, we've invited, it's always been the FinCom and the Select Board for our joint meetings throughout the budget process, and just the past couple of years, we've invited the leadership of the schools. But a tri-board, I think that's wonderful. If we could actually, you know, maybe put that into effect going forward. And one other point I know that you made about not filling positions, I think it would depend, because the police, they have retirements, we have to fill them. Fire or offices that are so lean with one person in them, we have to fill them. So, you know, we don't have a lot of excess staff here in the town, but I think that you would really have, it couldn't be like a blanket rule that we just don't fill.
No, I don't think
you
it'd be
know.
blanket, but we have some coming up and we can discuss.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, the only other thing was the public safety override request, and I know that we are moving on with the meeting.
I did have one question.
Oh,
if I can-
yes.
Please.
So this is really for you, Justin. You've kind of put that 60/40 thing out there, right? Which I took that as a budgetary process, and I feel like we started to convolute that with the actual dispersion of funds, and it's not, in my opinion. This is a tool that we can use to do our predictions to build out a budget that goes into the process, but it is, right, am I correct in this?
Yeah, and that was, I mean, my intent was to give us a place to start in October and say, like, this is where we're looking. Obviously, the school committee has their assessment process that comes further down the line. But, you know, when I joined the FinCom, Chuck was probably the only person there at the time. Sean was probably there. Yeah. But
In the audience.
yeah, Frank Lyman would put a zero in the school budget until they gave us an assessment, and that just wasn't a realistic way to budget. We moved on to the 5% placeholder, which worked well in some of the good new growth years and actually disadvantaged the school compared to a revenue formula in some of the really good new growth years. I think this is a place that this would morph with us. It's at least a starting place, and to go from here and let the FinCom meet with all the department heads and tell us what they need, which asks are really deserve more merit, and start shifting from there, including meeting with the schools.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding the purpose here.
Yeah, I'm not trying to set down a law.
Yeah, which I feel like I said, I think that's kind of, you were starting to feel that that's what was being said there, but I don't want to speak for you, obviously, but that's, I could hear how that could come across. But this is really a budgetary tool for us to predict and build out a responsible budget. And for that, I agree. If those are the right numbers, those are the right numbers, again, as a predictive tool. If not, we should keep looking at them and poke at them. But thank you.
Yes.
The override?
Yes.
I couldn't support, right now, what I know about the budget is I couldn't support a public safety only override. When I'm looking at the budget, it seems pretty clear that there's gonna be a significant deficit, somewhere from $500,000 to $1 million on the town side. That's a lot for us to cut. It's a significant amount of services that we currently have in the budget. So at least the way I understand a public safety override request to add services over and above what we currently have, I wouldn't support. I would support an override to keep the services that we currently have that we might lose if we ask for an override to keep the level services. Or even, I mean, personally, I think we should have the cheapest override possible, you know. I think it's important that the public knows that we have some skin in the game, that we recognize that this is a difficult time, and we have core things that we're going to ask for to keep as part of our level service override. But I don't think right now it's the time to be asking for services over and above what we currently have.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm not even sure we're in a position to ask for an override given what happened last year.
I agree with you 100%. I don't think you're going to get it.
And for years, I have been disappointed that this town, with one of the lowest tax rates of any surrounding town, hasn't, and a town that when we asked what it valued in the beginning of a 5-year plan, which is what you have to do, a 5-year plan has to be based upon a statement of values. And our town showed, without a doubt, that it valued, and actually it was education first, I believe. Education, public safety, fire and police, and they like their streets cleaned in the wintertime. They valued all these things, but damn it, they're not willing to pay for it. They don't want to pay for it, even though their taxes are low. And it drives me absolutely bonkers. We should have passed overrides in the past. And we came close a couple of times. What also drives me crazy is the idea that is floated sometimes, and it comes from school committee. And I was on the school committee, and it probably came from me when I was on the school committee. It drives me nuts to say that this town doesn't support its kids. It does. There's evidence of it. For the last 50 years, there's evidence of it, that it has done so. It's done so concretely, specifically. But there hasn't been the energy when it comes to an override, for some reason. But this year, I'm not sure it's a wise thing to do to ask for one. We have to somehow figure out a way to come up with a budget that does not include, and this is going to sound stupid, that does not include killing the library at the same time. Mm-hmm. I do not want that to be part of a budget to 86 the library. Okay. If you're going to say we have to do that, I'm not going to listen to you. But that's that might be a rhetorical thing that I just said. It might not mean a damn thing. But somehow we have to come up with a budget that's not going to do something like asking for an override that we know is going to fail. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. We're going to have to figure something out. And also for the first time in this long time that I've been doing this, school committee and selectmen, we have, and you've heard me say this before, and I'm looking right at Jimmy, and I'm looking at Kathy. We have a finance committee that has been supportive, not one that I hate. When I was on the school committee, when I first was on the selectmen, I hated the finance committee.
You hated
Couldn't
me?
stand them.
You hated me at that time?
Still do. Couldn't. No, the finance committee never did anything that made sense to me. They were always fighting. But we have one now that actually hears what the selectmen and the school committee is saying to them, and they work with them, and they try to help. You know, it's been a remarkable change. So I'm hopeful. I mean, I'm positive. We're in a tough situation right now. I hope we can work this out. Yes. I'm gonna go to this guy first because he's next to me and he's larger than I am. Okay.
So I don't think this was the intent of the police or the fire chief, but you know, they sent us 2 proposed override articles, one to add staffing, which I agree with Sean, you know, until we can keep the library open enough hours to get all the state money we should be getting, that seems, we can't possibly do that. But the other one was to maintain level services.
Kid, sit back in your chair. I don't want
And it probably not what they intended, but because we backfilled the public safety departments, prevented them from taking the same cuts as every other department, schools included, after the override failed last year, when the public was told very clearly there will be cuts to public safety if the override fails. I think it's worth us considering taking that one-time money back out and putting that forward as an override to maintain public safety where we put it against the will of the voters.
I've heard from many voters that they're very upset. They felt like they were lied to, even though they weren't, but that's how they felt, you know, because nobody got cut, and people are passionate about different things, and that seems to be a
And I think that the
Hot
voters
topic.
would support public safety if separated from the rest of the budget and put forward, but we never gave them the chance to tell us that. Instead, we said there will be cuts to public safety, and then we did not make those cuts.
right, exactly.
Yes, Sean.
I'm having trouble with this discussion because if we don't act now on an override and we say we wait 2 weeks or a month, and people will say you waited too long to act and you didn't start to sell it early and to have the discussions to like really formally prepare the community. I don't think 5 people or 10 people or 12 people should make the decision for the community of whether or not we should have the override or not. That's my opinion. I think cutting 500, even what seems to be best case scenario for the town of Whitman, which would be horrible for kind of a bad scenario for the school, what kind of cuts are we talking about? The problem is we don't have a clear picture. You know, you say you don't want to touch a library, which is admirable, but what would you cut $500,000 from the town? The budget that was presented to you guys is already sparse. Department heads are already complaining and saying we need more, and we needed more 3 years ago, and we need more. So to cut $500,000 out of the budget is going to be significant. To not at least make that an option for the community, and the community might say, you know, we don't support an override, and that's the will of the community. But for us not to give the option for them to save some critical services seems like too much for a very small amount of people.
Yeah, you know, the other option is for the override needs to come from the community. The override that almost passed a few years ago, the energy came from the community. The Save Our Schools override. Mm-hmm. That's where it has to come from. But that one didn't. That one almost worked, but it didn't. You know, if the firemen or the policemen were really were interested in, or really serious about the need for an override, they would get their people to support, to organize out there for an override.
Well, I think we
That's where
need
it's gotta-
more
that's
of
where it's gotta come
a
from.
whole town override than, you know, because that, I can't be not.
Actually, the last
like,
override
you
that
know
was
what I mean?
successful was a fire override.
Firefighters and 2 new
Chief
police
Brennan.
officers.
Right, Chief Grinnell. He organized it. Yeah,
He pushed that for a while.
right.
They had 3
Made
new
people aware.
firefighters in
Right.
2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's
Haven't been any
important that I
losses.
read the 2 warrant articles that the Chief Anlin put forward, just so
yeah, you have
people
to.
understand.
Yep.
Okay, so the first article, and this is proposed by both the police and the fire chief, and it reads, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $390,527 for the purpose of funding 4 additional firefighter paramedic positions within the fire department and 2 additional officer positions in the police department for $186,000 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026. And to meet this appropriation, the sum of $576,527 raised and appropriated subject to an affirmative override vote in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2 and 1/2 so called, or take any other action relative thereto. The ballot question for this one would read, shall the town of Whitman be allowed to assess an additional $576,527 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of adding 4 additional firefighter/paramedic positions to the fire department and 2 additional police officer positions to the police department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026. Now, there is another one, a secondary article, and when Chief Hanlon presented this Thursday afternoon, he is away out of town at the moment. I did think that Chief Clancy was going to be here. He was away last week. However, I think he did stop in early this morning and said he had an appointment, so he's not here. I was hoping that he could speak to this. This second article, which would be option B, and I think both would have to be placed on the warrant if we went this route at all, and if the first didn't pass, the second one would be their second choice here, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of money for the purpose of level service within the fire department and level service within the police department for sum of money for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026. And to meet this appropriation, the sum of money raised and appropriated subject to an affirmative override in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2 and 1/2 so-called, or take any other action relative thereto. The ballot question that corresponds with that reads, shall the town of Whitman be allowed to assess an additional sum of money in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of maintaining level service in the fire department and the police department for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026? So those are the two that they were submitted. They'll be, put on the warrant for when the select board reviews the warrant to see what articles they want to put forth or not. But I just wanted to read the full article so everybody out there knows what we know, what we've seen. The FinCom received this and the select board for tonight. So I just want.
Okay, we haven't seen those yet, though.
No.
We're not voting on those tonight.
No, we're not voting on these tonight. Absolutely not.
They weren't on the agenda, so.
No.
Can I make, on that, on those two that possibly go to town meeting, right? One has a figure, the other one doesn't.
Right.
Consequently, what happens is, the one with the figure, say that passes, it's a certain amount, I forget what it is. The following year, you have to take that amount of money after you do the full budget and then backfill it, and it may not backfill what they need, because you've got one solid piece of money. So how would it work in the future budgets? Because you would do a budget and you say, okay, this is what it is, but wait a minute, town voted that 400,000 is going to come back into the police and fire, right? Will that bring what they need up?
No, that would be dealt with in Article 2 every year.
Yes.
Are we adding bodies, or is it through attrition, retirement, or something like that?
No, this article is adding bodies, this first
It's
choice
adding
article.
6 people?
It's
Yeah.
adding 4 additional firefighters
And 2 additional.
and 2 additional police. Now, the
Yeah.
police officer, Chief Hanlon has said that he's not running, all his shifts fully staffed. The fire department runs their full shifts. So I think that Chief Hanlon just wants to be, made whole if possible. But the fire is adding 4 additional on that first request. So,
Yeah, most of that addition will be for medical, because that ambulance is going 24/7. You live in town, you can hear it going down the street all the time.
We can discuss,
Yeah.
we can
Sorry.
discuss this when it's time
Right,
to
it's not right.
discuss it. I don't
Right.
wanna- Yes, John?
I think the purposes for tonight to get feedback from you all was, should we have an override or not? I think that's critical. I mean, this just happened to come across your desk on Thursday, and I think it's valid to. I respect those guys, obviously. I will pay very close attention to their needs, and I think the level service override is intriguing. Should we propose a level of service override for public safety, for the other town departments.
How can you describe this as a level service override when it adds 4 people to the
No,
department?
the second one, not the first one.
Second one, okay.
Yeah, so that I think is feedback that we should receive. Like, would you support an override for us to start to organize? And the way that we organize the override, should it be just for public safety, or separate public safety from other town departments from the schools, or should it be a general override for, I think that.
My suggestion would be, let's see what the school department comes up with, and that's what we base everything around too, so.
Yeah,
You'd have to, I would recommend.
that makes sense.
Yeah, the only wrinkle is their deadline is 45 days before town meeting to assess us a number, and our deadline to post a ballot question is 45 days before the election. So there's that 2-week window where we have to be on it.
So just, I know you don't want to discuss these two too much, but one thing that I'm intrigued about is I would be interested in adding 4 EMTs if the revenue from running that ambulance pays for those roles. The police, I've been an advocate of adding police officers because we don't have enough police officers to run the shift, so we're paying overtime for them to do that. Does adding these police officers full-time negate the cost of 1.5 and more of paying for coverage right now, right? Let's look at it from a financial perspective as well, which it's not in there, and I don't expect that, but it's something that would be very helpful for us to make a better decision about.
That's why you're on the finance committee. That's
I'm a
good.
teacher, actually. I just happen to be here.
Fire department's always doing callbacks to refill the station.
Sweet. Okay.
But other than that, I will say, I'm with
Thank
you
you.
on that, Sean, is let's look at, I don't love the idea of a singular override for one. We heard that when we tried to do a school override. That was resoundingly, we're pitting one department against everybody else. I'd like to see us look at the other way, but adding staff right now does not look good with the numbers I've seen this evening, unless they can pay for themselves.
Good point. Now, did you want to bring up the what you talked about this afternoon, the amendment to the school?
Okay, sure. I had that down, the TA, but it's appropriate here.
It should be appropriate here, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Whitman Middle School, as I mentioned, we're going forward with that borrowing. And I just received today, which I've passed on to the district, is the IMA that we did, the intermunicipal agreement, does need to have an amendment done to it. And basically, the reason for that is that MSBA wanted language added into the IMA that stated that the funds would be sent to the town. And so we, in turn, will send the funds on to the district after they vote a requisition at their building committee meetings each month and signed off by the vote of the committee and the signature of the OPM. However, in order for this issue to be a federal tax exempt issue, which is more attractive out in the marketplace for bidders, they're going to treat the funds going to the school as a grant. So the IMA amendment, it was just a very 1-2 pager that dealt with that grant language. So we do have that here tonight, so that the board could vote on that. And it just came in this morning. So it's very important to keep everything on track. We're taking care of these matters as soon as they come in.
Okay. Do you have it?
It's actually in the folder there, yes?
It is? Oh, in this folder, okay.
It is.
Yep. We can do that now.
That would be fantastic.
So we were putting that on our agenda for our meeting on the 25th, so we'll vote on it next Wednesday or next meeting.
And I saw that email come through earlier today. And Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to read it, I can read it, or
I,
the next section, I think, there.
is this it?
That's it.
An amendment to the right, okay. Could I have a motion for us to,
I'll make that motion.
okay,
Second.
someone second it? Do we all know what we're doing?
I'll
Okay.
sign that. Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other business amongst us? Are you having another meeting tonight? Are you going to your own meeting tonight?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday? This is it?
This is school vacation week, and some of my colleagues have children that they
Oh,
want
it
to
is
get home
school
to. So,
vacation
yeah, we intentionally did not schedule.
Just so you're aware, Doctor,
Should we,
we are planning to meet starting, next week is with the Whitman Regional School District.
okay.
And that's probably our last departmental meeting. So we will begin on the 3rd of March, I think it is. We're going to be starting our discussions. These documents and the material that you left for us, Mary Beth, those are it's huge for us. We're hoping to come in maybe with some more suggestions this year, as you've asked for. But, recommendations and suggestions, where can we maybe assist finding a few other dollars to bring that down?
Okay.
Without really impacting us too badly.
Great.
So,
Great. Well, someone like to adjourn this part of the meeting?
I'll make that motion to
I
adjourn.
mean, we can adjourn the joint meeting with the...
Right, joint
Okay,
meeting.
all right, motion to adjourn the joint meeting with the Finance Committee. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sign over.
See you, Ryan. Yep, see you.
We don't have another meeting after this, do we?
No, I think we're done.
You get some water?
I need to get some too. Want me to get you some?
Yeah. You gonna get it?
Yeah, I'll get it for you. Yeah, that would be actually, that one's mine. He doesn't have one. Not yet anyways.
Boy, this poor guy.
I think if we're gonna do an override, people should decide. Yeah, if we're gonna end up doing an override, I think the people make a decision to make it a full override for all departments.
Should be,
Yeah, no, it's their decision.
yeah.
Kathy, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry.
The one with lipstick on is Laura's.
And God bless you, you're strong enough to come here.
Yep, that's ours.
God bless you.
Oh, I'll get you one, Carl.
Do you have to tip her?
When will you have?
Oh, she's getting it for you, Carl. Oh,
Chiefs have texted me yet.
we got a proclamation we gotta sign too. Sign for the retiring police officer.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
there's a luncheon tomorrow. Did you know that?
Ah, yes.
12 o'clock, yeah. In the
I,
police station.
yeah.
Talk to John Bober.
It was a long meeting. Just
It
for that.
was.
Do you remember? When we, is this on?
I'm not sure. Tap.
Yes.
So do we salute the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag?
Again? No.
No, just do,
Yeah.
what do we talk about in this meeting?
Is what's on here.
I'll grab my paper.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But we had a joint meeting with both finance committees and both selectmen,
but that takes
both boards and board and Hanson.
Yes, but not the whole school committee, right?
School committee was there. Oh, yeah.
In the last couple of years?
When Randy was the chair.
That's when I was not here, yeah.
And like,
Oh, downstairs.
Yeah.
That was before, that was right when he was on his way out. That was the reason, yeah.
But see, it says all this, and then it
Tonight,
says
I'm presenting
all
to you
this,
guys
and we don't do,
from Old Colony
we don't do
Planning
any
for
of this
the
anymore.
Frederick
it's all done.
Douglass Trail, so it's the multi-use path
then we were on
going
the
through
top item.
Atherton,
Yeah,
Whitman.
but
Joint
don't we,
meeting.
all these people just came, we don't have to say public forum.
Oh, thank you.
No, it was,
Well, that's
the
okay,
next
yeah,
thing
no,
we're
it's
gonna
nice
end
to
up
get
doing
queued
is,
up and-
it was supposed to have done at 7:05 as a public hearing. We'll just start from there.
And as a
this
matter
was
of
the
fact,
joint
this
meeting.
you guys know,
Right.
just a
So
copy
we
of the
did all
presentation.
this, we don't have to do that again for
But
another meeting.
that was supposed to go just until 7,
Oh,
an hour, but we went longer. It's good for me. We went an hour and 40 minutes,
well, that's what I was asking.
yeah. So now we're starting where it says 7:05?
Okay.
That's the next thing on the agenda.
Well, I need to say something here that I didn't say.
What, public forum?
Yeah, if I'd only take 2 seconds, I can say it right from here. Yeah. And that's what I was asking.
Oh, yeah.
Remember I said right on the TV? Because I was confused about that you were doing all that when we were, yeah, because we're,
Right to the Dyer Avenue people.
Carl, why I had asked is because it did seem like this was appropriate at that point.
What
But
was appropriate?
this public forum and all of this, when you say something, but everybody was here, and I thought we were here for FinCom, so that's why I asked for, what's that word?
Clarity?
Clarity, thank you.
Clarity.
That's exactly, I kept going to clearance for clarity of it. I only just have something to say, take me 1 second, I don't have to stand up to say it, but only take 1 second. Can I say it when it's appropriate? Well, I thought we were gonna stand up and say pledge allegiance and everything.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna do it all
Just
again for
copy
the
of the
selection
presentation.
meeting.
Okay, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's why, because
No, what we're gonna do next is this.
right. Well, can I just say one thing, take 1
Thank you.
second? I won't even stand up. I want to say it as select person.
You wanna say it as a select?
Yeah, I don't want to say, it's not anything to do.
Okay, listen,
I'm
when
Mary
we get,
Beth.
when we get down to this,
Okay,
chairman's report, I'll say, I
That's
don't have anything,
perfect.
but I'm gonna,
that's perfect.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. And now you understand what I was meaning when I was talking, because I didn't understand it. Yeah.
This
well,
is
we
on-
met with FinCom prior, but they've been separate. Once they were done, they were done. See what I mean?
Right.
Where's this on the agenda?
It's got to be on the agenda because she gave it to
This
us.
is for Macomb. The regional planning.
Hey, how
Oh, it's all the way down the bottom.
45 minutes.
We're gonna get that out of order?
I didn't, maybe.
What if we're gonna take this out of order?
I mean, we've got 2 public hearings we got to do first.
I know, I mean, you got 2 of them, yeah.
Yeah, those should be quick.
It'll take longer to read the public hearing thing.
And it
than
looks like Ed Winnett's in the back of the room too, Jason DeRozier, so it's a lot of guests. We've got Ed Winnett, Jason DeRozier here too, so we've got a lot of folks
Yeah.
here.
No, I think he found one already.
Oh, he's doing
Yeah.
Canvas still.
Yeah. Frederick, that they named it?
I'll come by too.
my cousin. You're probably not my cousin.
Reining in, public hearing.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta wait till 7:05 tomorrow.
Okay, we're ready to start.
Yeah, we're
soon
on. We've been on.
Oh, they've been hearing us?
Steve coming up?
Hi, Mike.
What you can do?
Good to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Okay, it's reached 7:05. And it's way past time for a public hearing with respect to the petition of the Mass Electric Company doing business as National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated to install one JO pole P5150 between P51 and 52 on Washington Street, beginning at a point approximately 100 feet southwest of the center line of the intersection of Whitman Avenue, and to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in said intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. Someone here from Mass Electric? You are?
How you doing?
Oh,
Sorry. I was over here last time, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Nice shirt.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Jared, representing National Grid at 100 East Ashland Street in Brockton.
Okay?
This poll is to, my understanding is to have a primary riser to a new transformer in order to replace a customer service at 596-600.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, and I'll second it.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
is there any discussion?
I think that's the new building on Washington Street, so that makes sense.
Oh. Do you know what's going on? Yes, sir. You have a
We're
question?
going to have overhead wires, or we're going to have underground wires feeding the building? Be nice if they don't need underground.
Be my guest, yeah.
They are. They're going underground to a transformer on the ground. Of course.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry you had to wait so long.
I know.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sweet. 7:10, public hearing with respect to the application of Trillium Fuel Incorporated, doing business as Quality Fuel Mart for a wine and malt packaged goods store liquor license on the premises located at 180 South Avenue, subject to the receipt of the license, advertising and postage fees, and approval by the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. Somebody here, yes.
Yes. Hello, Ravi Mujahid from Quality Fuel.
Okay.
Applying for the license, for beer and wine license.
Do we have
So,
everything?
I spoke with Lori, it's subject to the receipt of the license and the fees and so forth, but yes, and this will have approval by the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission, so we can vote pending those, that they're in the,
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone have any questions or? Okay.
Good luck.
Guess what? All those in favor? Aye.
There you go.
Good luck.
You're all set. Good luck.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Okay, Chairman's report. I'm going to pass the gavel to Laura because she has something she would like to say.
Thank you so much. I'll make it quick because it's been a very long night for everyone. Thank everybody for waiting. I had announced December 1st that I was resigning on my grandfather's birthday, April 5th. I am no longer resigning, and I took out papers tonight to rerun for select person. I did that because of the town bringing to my attention some sad things. And if I address the sad things, then maybe I would be sad. And I choose to be optimistic. And because I care very deeply about this town, my decision to move forward when my daughter graduates, which like 2.5 years, will be to sell and move, just as I said. But until then, I'm not going to just leave an empty seat because to this date, no one has stepped up. And I am very disheartened and saddened. And I please beg of everyone, please, we're a very transitional town now. We're transient more than we are long-time Whitmanite people. So if you just move to this town for the next year or two, please join a committee, please join the town and help it run better. We only run better together. And if I was to look at the somewhat disappointing after everything I've been through, rolling of eyes and such, and let it bother me, I wouldn't be sitting here to this day. I sit here for only the people, and I implore you to all join the community and be a positive part of it. There's so much that needs to be done, and I believe in this town. So thank you, and thank you to the Chairman Kyle to let me speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for making that announcement. It's one of the better chairman's reports I've given. New
He
business.
says that now.
Action on the request of Town Clerk Don Varley to reappoint Yvonne B. Evans to the position of Registrar of Voters for a 3-year term beginning on April 1st, 2026 and expiring on March 31st, 2029.
I'll make that motion.
there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Consider the request of Ed Winnett to form a Hobart Dam Replacement Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ed, are you here?
Get it?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Talk to us about this dam.
All right.
this damn
Great.
thing.
Well, I
Yeah.
know you guys have had a long night, so try to be quick. But as maybe aware, the part of the Hobart Dam collapsed a few years back, and a fence was installed around the dam as part of a safety measure. The current condition of the Hobart Dam is listed as poor by the State Conservation and Recreation Department, but it hasn't been inspected since 2017, which is prior to the sidewall collapse. I did submit a request to the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for them to come out to do an inspection due to the current safety issues as well as a potential, just due to the age that it could fail. The dam is very old and hasn't had any repairs since the original structure, although I'm trying to dig up what the date is of when that dam was installed, and that's proving to be a little challenging. In 2017, an environmental company called GZA Geo Environmental performed an inspection of the dam and provided an estimate of $1.2 million to replace the dam. In November of 2025, Erica and I met with representatives from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program to discuss the dam replacement grants. They don't often replace dams, which we found kind of odd, but they typically remove them. So when we provided the historical significance to the history of Whitman, as well as the recreational resource value Hobart Pond provides to the community, they suggested that we should, in fact, proceed with the grant. This type of application, though, is pretty extensive, and Bruce Martin has agreed to help the Conservation Commission with this endeavor. The grant itself requires a lot of community engagement to show strong support and value for the project. It's too much for any one person or one department to handle. So the Conservation Commission is asking for the Select Board to approve formation of a Hobart Dam Replacement Committee consisting of members from the Conservation Commission, Recreation Commission, DPW, CPC, and Council of Aging, with the goal of developing community awareness of Hobart Pond and the impact the dam has on this thriving environmental resource.
Okay, great. Would someone like to make a motion to allow Ed to do that?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, have you contacted, there are grants replace that dam?
Yeah, we had a meeting with MVP, and like I said, at first they were like, well, we don't want to really replace them, but once we talked about how important the dam is, they was like, well, you know what, tell the story. And they provided an example of a dam that they did replace way out in Western Mass, and there was a lot of community engagement. So putting something like this together, getting people involved, having learned to fish day, for instance, or coming up with out-of-the-box ideas that brings the community in to enjoy Hobart, but also to understand what an environmental resource we really have in town. So
Have you contacted
MVP is where
Oconee
we're
Planning
going.
Council? Have you talked to Oconee Planning Council?
I actually did go to their presentation a few months back, and that's a possibility. We weren't able to make the timeline because it was due in January, so we didn't have enough time, but that's certainly an opportunity.
They may be able to lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, agreed.
Ed, have you found our MVP plan? It's published online, I think, through OCPC. So the dam was identified as a potential not hazard, but we identified it early on, yeah.
Yeah. Bob Kimball, this is a significant dam. It's at the lowest level of dams. In Foxborough, I built a dam that the dam safety backed. It was funded by private funds, but they backed rebuilding it because it was a big watershed, and we wanted to drain the pond. They said no, but there is money out there for public dams, and it's been, I know 2 or 3 of them that they've rebuilt as opposed to just tearing them out. And I was involved in 2 of them.
Good.
That's great.
Sounds like a potential committee member.
Yeah, good resource.
There you go.
All hands on deck.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is to consider a request of Ed Bonnet to form an open space and recreation plan implementation committee. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Be my
Thank
guest.
you.
Should I speak to? So this committee is a rollover from the original committee that was put together to develop the goals. And in goal 5.1, so we have a goal to develop an implementation committee. So this is just a carryover from that. And in the 1 to 3 year, there's 19 goals that have been identified. It's a pretty heavy lift. And, obviously, we're not going to do them all in the first year. So looking at the membership for at least the first year, our plan is to look at, revisit it every year, just, to make sure that the membership is effective and that we're meeting our goals. So it may change after the first year, but this year we're looking to have myself, Leanne McKenzie from the Conservation Commission, Brian Tully from Recreation, Adam Somerville from the Planning Board, Bruce Martin or Bob Trumbull from the DPW, and Jason DeRozier to represent the public.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Do we vote on it yet?
I think we did.
but Minerva has a.
Yes.
Yep. So there had been formed the Open Space and Recreation Plan Steering Committee. So that will be no more, correct? And
Correct.
this will replace that,
It's the implementation.
implementation to carry it forward.
Okay,
Yep.
Awesome.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much.
One more.
We need
to vote.
We voted that through.
We did vote. Do we want to vote those members on? Was that the request?
Where's that?
Sure.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Is there a list? Hey, do you want to read us a motion and to appoint those members? And we'll say Bruce from the DPW for the time being.
Yeah. Motion to authorize myself, Leanne McKenzie from Conservation, Ryan Tully from Recreation Commission, Adam Somerville from the Planning Board, Bruce Martin from the DPW, and Jason DeRozier to participate in the Open Space Implementation Steering Committee.
All right, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go, Ed.
Anything else?
Now you don't call me.
Just one more.
Is there?
I'm not seeing it. What is it?
I'm not,
Rail trail.
I'm not seeing
Oh,
it.
rail trail.
Yep. A busy year with conservation. Busy and exciting. So
So the next item.
Okay. Old Colony Planning Council, inclusion of Whitman in the existing Old Colony Rail Trail.
Yep. So last year, during the development of the open space plan, one of the top requests by the community was developing walking and bicycle trails. We had many field trips to evaluate the resource value of town land with a focus on the ability to connect to our neighboring towns. Matt Dwyer from OCPC joined us in these walks with his drone to help us visualize the opportunity. We do have a goal incorporated into the conditionally approved open space plan for developing a network of trails, and Matt is going to provide an overview of this proposed trail. From this meeting, we're seeking approval from the Select Board to move forward with feasibility studies and to investigate and secure needed rights of ways from private landowners where needed. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and those who are viewing at home. Again, my name is Matthew Dyer. I'm a senior transportation planner with Old Colony Planning. For those who are unfamiliar with Old Colony Planning, we are your regional planning agency. We serve about 17 communities here on the South Shore. We have many areas of different discipline, from being the area agency on aging, comprehensive planning, economic development, transportation, and specialized services like culvert inspections, GIS, grant management. So tonight I'm here to present to you, as Ed was saying, a multi-use pathway, and this would really transform our region as a whole. So before I dive into the details, I think it might be helpful to show you where it is. So here's on the left is an image of the South Shore, and on the right is kind of zoomed in a little bit. The red line is the proposed multi-use pathway. So working north to south, it would run from the Weymouth-Abington line through Abington, right through Whitman to East Bridgewater, flirt a little bit with West Bridgewater and into Bridgewater. The green lines on the map on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side are existing multi-use pathways. So you have the Abington, Rockland, Hanover Rail Trail, and West Bridgewater has a nice, about a mile of a rail trail right now. Zooming into Whitman, now the red line is now the green line. My apologies for the multicolors here. But going from the north to the south, it would come from the Abington-Whitman line, cutting through Hobart Meadow, over Essex Street, through the Boulevard, over South Ave, connecting to the MBTA station, cutting through Bear Meadow, over to, I believe it's Country Way?
I think that's Roseway.
Roseway, and then down to the Flaherty Trail going into East Bridgewater.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Where that crosses Washington Street, does it literally cross on Washington Street? Like
Yes.
you're
Yep.
coming out of the meadow or whatnot, and then you're going down Auburn Street, like on Washington Street down Auburn until that, you take a left into that trail?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, right. I couldn't find, it would have to go over Washington Street regardless. That part right there is the trickiest intersection so far. So right now, this is all a conversation. So if you might have a different idea, happy to talk about it and take notes. But yes, right now it does cross over Washington Street. So to kind of give you another view of this, the yellow parcels on this map on the right-hand side are town-owned properties. And then the black outline properties are the private properties that we would have to seek easements for. So right now, it's only 4 parcels, which is amazing, because in East Bridgewater, we're going to have to contact maybe 15. So for us to only have to contact 4 here in Whitman, knock on wood, it might be an easy lift. And it's all forested, meadowed land. So there's not really much going on for development right there, which is nice. So in Whitman itself, it's about 4 miles of trail and two potential boardwalks, Hobart Meadow and Bear Meadow, and connecting to the Whitman train station. Just a quick note, before anyone gets really nervous that we spent a lot of money on these drawings, they're just AI-generated images. So don't get nervous that we've been spending big money on your behalf, so don't worry. So it's just AI. So a little bit more about the details of this pathway. It's a proposed 12-foot wide multi-use pathway. It would be paved and ADA compliant. Altogether, this project is about 15 miles long. It's located in 4 communities, as I mentioned: Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater. Bridgewater kind of flirts with West Bridgewater's town line. And it will create regional connectivity. As I mentioned, it would connect to the Abington, Rockland, Hanover Rail Trail, as well as maybe going into Weymouth. So my goal as a senior transportation planner is to try to make a off-road experience so that you'd be able to bike from Boston down to Cape Cod and not to really have to ride on a bike lane or anything like that, but a separated multi-use bike pathway that everyone can enjoy without worrying about the traffic 2 feet from you. So the objective, as I mentioned, creating a safe, equitable access, strengthening connections between trains, buses, but this is the really exciting part about this project, is highlighting a chapter of our history that doesn't really get much attention. The abolition era, the Civil War era, and this pathway is kind of inspired by Frederick Douglass's journey growing up, living in Nantucket and New Bedford, and traveling up in between Boston and New Bedford. And he made stops along the way in between, in Abington and Brockton and Whitman, and to highlight that, but also to highlight the history of the Underground Railroad and to honor the legacy of our Civil War soldiers as well. So how this all transpired was in each community that I've mentioned before, there's been groups of residents that all share the same idea, to build a bike pathway or a multi-use pathway that they could go beyond just their town borders. And this is a really great example of the work that we do here at OCPC. We're breaking down those town barriers and making projects within the region that have regional significance and that could really improve the quality of life for not just one town, but for all residents in the region. So my job as a senior transportation planner has been working with these different groups in East Bridgewater, Ed, and the Open Space Group here in Whitman, and Bridgewater and Abington to make this all come together. So the current status, East Bridgewater, their select board had given us their vote of support. We're going to go back and present more details as we work on them. Tonight, I'm here before you, working with conservation and open space, and we're starting those conversations with Bridgewater and Abington as the middle seems to be on board with this project. So working with the towns, so the next steps would be to start seeking those land permissions for private property owners, whether they're homeowners or just landowners or utilities, and then also working with publicly owned properties such as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and town-owned property. Yes?
I have two questions.
Sure.
One on the private property. Make this really like black and white for the public, because when I see that, if you were talking about my home, that's very personal.
Sure.
And to everybody that, you know, whether it's 4 or 20, it doesn't matter, it's very personal. So what exactly would you be asking these people? To give up their land, to allow people to walk through? Or is it like they take property and you move?
Yeah. That great question, and thank you for asking that
I'll
clarification.
let you answer, and then I just have another quick follow-up.
Absolutely. So when it comes to seeking an easement on private property, I'm all for voluntary. My service as a National Park Ranger, I've seen what eminent domain does for the relationship between government and private property owners.
Yes.
So this would be a voluntary program, right? If you don't want an easement, and we're just talking about a 12-foot easement, we're not coming in and taking your whole parcel. We're just coming in to say, can we have 12 feet of access? And I'm very sensitive to making sure that this multi-use pathway isn't right outside your window. I wouldn't really enjoy that, and I'm not going to try to force that down people's throats. And I know that people right now are very sensitive with government overreach and certain acts that I won't get into. But yeah, it would be a voluntary thing. And if the property owner said, nope, all right, that's okay. We're going to try to wiggle around and try to make it work. I'm not here to say, give me your land. I'm from the government, give me your land. Nope. Because ultimately, this is the town of Whitman's project, and we want to make sure it's just a friendly and community-supported project.
I appreciate that. And your answer in there kind of gave you a little pass, because that's my next question, Mr. Park Ranger. What about the animals? Are you going to do something on this pathway that will improve the habitat of animals? Because I realize that I don't have any of my horseback riding land or any of the cow properties except for Hornstra, thank God, but that a lot of animals have been dispersed. But I'm also realistic, and I know exactly where all these properties are, and they are not being used most likely due to some wetlands or some this or that. So would you be improving the property, and would you be adding anything? I wouldn't say koi ponds, or something like that, but that's along the lines of what I'm thinking. Water and moving water draws wildlife to that. Birds, I'm not looking so much for the bear, they can stay away, but just wildlife in general, which then would also uptick people wanting to be there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this project, my goal as a conservationist as well is minimum impact, right? We're going to go in, we're going to create a path, and we can improve it with native restoration, because we will be going through some sensitive areas for ecology. So I'm sure we're going to have to do some restoration work, and that's when we work with our friends in the Conservation Department and Open Space, as well as our partners at the state level too, with natural heritage and whatnot. So With that being said, it would be native, I would advocate for native
Yes.
species and whatnot to help support pollinators and the local birds and whatnot. Creating a pathway too, at night, it's a path of least resistance, right?
Yes.
So the deer might just, no one's around, the deer might use that rather
They
than
do in
walking.
Colorado, right?
Right, exactly. So it's a path of least resistance, and we do know animals tend to choose that path of least
Yes.
resistance. So I'm sure it will improve their habitat a little bit. So I hope that answers your question.
It did. It helped my heart a lot. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, Matt, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The trail that's going to go to all the different towns, right? Is it wide enough to get emergency vehicles down?
Yes, it's 12 feet wide.
Okay.
So that should be wide enough to drive a truck down. So if need be, the fire, ambulance,
Right.
police, whomever, maintenance, if they have to drive down their
Yeah,
truck,
It'll be like the one that's in Rockland,
yes.
the old trail, the old railroad trail.
Yep.
Now, will this trail, and you say it's by the T station, will any of this trails go over tracks?
This current segment, no, not to my,
Okay. 'Cause I'm
perhaps
nervous about that.
yeah, perhaps in Abington, it might cross over at the street level.
Right.
And
Where
then
there's
if
a gate.
correct, yep, it would require a gate. But in this segment in Whitman, it does not cross over the Whitman portion of the tracks. And then obviously, we'd be working with our colleagues over at the MBTA to make sure that they're safe crossing.
Now, in the Whitman station, at the end of the parking lot, there is historic turnaround. Is that going to be affected?
No.
I don't know if anyone has done anything with it lately. An Eagle Scout project cleaned that up one time, but
Yeah.
that was years ago.
Yeah, I don't see it being impacted by any means. I would say that if anything, it would enhance it. And as we progress with this project, there's going to be a lot of public outreach. So maybe perhaps, I know Ed might have an idea of like, oh, well, maybe if we did X, Y, Z, obviously everything would kind of be through public comment. Ed?
And one of the things that we looked at specifically with that trussel
Yeah.
was having a bridge going over Schumatussucket River leading into the trussel, because that trussel's sitting there and no one really sees it.
I know
Yeah.
it,
So
I know it.
bringing some
Attention.
awareness to what that is and having historical plaques along the way as well too would be an additive to that. So
Yes.
going across the river over to the trussel and then out the subway, up the commuter rail access.
I agree.
I was going to say Subway. When'd that come in?
Yeah, we didn't get to that slide yet, did we? Any other questions before moving on? No? All right. So this is the big one, funding. As a former selectman and listening to your finance meeting, I understand money, it's a sensitive subject. And if we can do a project that enhances the quality of life without really affecting the tax burden of the tax levy, even better, right? So I want to look at different ways to fund this project without asking too much from the community. So there are grants out there that will help projects like this, whether it's Mass Trails or Mass Works. There's some federal grants out there like the Build Grant. Here in Whitman, you guys are great and you have the CPC funding, so that could go towards something like this. Mass DOT, this actually qualifies for a TIP project. So you guys are very familiar with TIP, with the Self-Ave project going on. So this could qualify for something like that. Private foundations like American Trails, they have a little bit of money. I'm not going to stand here and say, guys, guess what? This is a free trail. I'm sure at some point we're going to come back and say, hey, to make this project happen, we're looking for an investment from the community. But I want to try to minimize that lift for that community because money's a little tight. So with that being said, there's some really great funding mechanisms out there to kind of help get the project up and off the ground. So after we secure funding, we can go out and we can go start doing the really fun part, which is doing the conceptual drawings, not just the AI images, but actual get an engineer out to start doing some drawings, get the engineering done, start the permitting process, and then start construction. And then at the end, it's just not a vision, but it's a reality, and we would just have to maintain and enjoy this project. So with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions. And if not, yes, Mr. Evans. Oh, sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'll let you go. Sorry.
So I think this is great. This would feed right into the South Ave project that you brought up on the, that we're pursuing with the TIP. It's right in our MBTA communities district that it passes through. It's in the proposed 40R district. So I think this could be a huge opportunity for us. Can you go back to the map?
Yeah, well,
Quickly?
which
I
one?
might be able to shave off one property. Right here. So I grew up right in this circle here, and if you zigzag into Old Colony, there's a utility easement right here that you'd probably tie right into, with hunting trails that I think connect to this.
Perfect.
Come on here soon. I don't know who owns this, but you don't have to go through them if you don't want to.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
I love the project.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Yeah, I love it too.
yeah, I'll be pushing for this for sure. Community preservation funds, I think it would fall into that.
Makes sense.
But
It would
I love
build
it.
back Whitman. It would build it back, because we're kind of demolished right now, so it would be really nice. I think the communities would love it. Who maintains it afterwards? You said maintenance. I was just, because I know our DPW is stretched, et cetera, but do you go through once a year or twice a year, or is it all on the towns?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I made sure to put that part because I didn't want to sell the town a great vision and then
Right.
see you later when it breaks down, right? So how I envision this, and this is up to the communities to kind of work together. For example, the rail trail in Abington, Rockland, Hanover, that's owned and operated by DCR. So the state maintains it, from my understanding.
nice.
I advocate for the towns to maintain local control, so that way when you want to do something on it, you're not going to have to go up to Boston and get a special use permit. If you want to alter it in some way, it's your domain.
So the town people could
so-
decide which way they wanted it?
Yeah, that's how I would recommend it. So that way it's yours,
Well, remember, we're also broke.
We are broke, yes.
We can never neglect that.
So with that being said, usually with rail trails, the community loves them. And with that being said, going back to funding mechanisms, so usually communities love them. There are usually friends groups that are created. So people of the community, users of the trail, they'll get together, they'll form a nonprofit, they'll maintain the trail. We've seen that with many rail trails, and of course, it's easy to say, sometimes hard to organize, but I think something like this, where we don't have anything really like it, that people would come out and support it.
I can definitely agree with you.
So with this nonprofit, you'd be able to apply to like the Mass Trails Grant, and they actually fund maintenance, believe it or not. They don't say just build it, they want to maintain it. So you can actually purchase equipment like Kubotas or trucks or snow maintenance or whatever it may be. You can actually apply for grants, and if you show that it's regional significance and would really add value, they actually give you money to maintain,
That's
which is
excellent.
really exciting. And you'd be able to use CPC funding as well. So you already put money aside, so it's not an additional tax to the town. You're already paying that. And then private foundation money as well. You have to work for that, but that money could be applied to that kind of nonprofit. And once again, it's just not Whitman. When you think about maintenance and a friends group, now you're talking about folks in Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater, and then surrounding communities too. So we actually have folks that don't live in any of the four communities showing up to the meetings in East Bridgewater going, how can I be a part of this?
Will all these other trails connect?
So, great question. So right now we connect to the Abington, Rockland, Hanover Rail Trail. It also is this project would fill a gap in the Bay Circuit Trail, a crucial gap that they've been unable to connect. So it would connect to the Bay Circuit Trail, which goes from Plymouth, Kingston, up and around Boston, and up to Plum Island. So you'd be able to walk there. We'd build this, as we go out and we get community feedback. Hey, could you connect it to this trail? It would be add value.
Mostly bicycles are on them.
So I kind of look at it like I envision it like the Cape Cod Canal in a sense, where you have bicyclists, rollerblading, running, walking, rolling, however you want to use the trail. That's not like a car or whatever, but
Well, snowmobiles. That's what I'd worry about.
So it's all in how Whitman wants to regulate it, right? For that portion of this trail, you guys can regulate it however you want. You want skis? Don't want to maintain it during the winter and say go cross country skiing in the Whitman portion? Go for it. Yeah. So one other quick thing I'll mention about while we're on funding. So with the Regal Shoe area, you can actually sometimes leverage these kind of projects with those developments. So you can say, as you're building out this project, we would like you to do X, Y, Z. I'll leave that to the folks here at the town, but you can leverage sometimes these projects to build onto a community project like that.
Well, maybe somebody will buy one of the businesses and sell snow skis.
There you go. Right.
Sean?
Just last question. You recommend that's paved or more like gravel and that kind of thing?
So I would recommend pavement because that's less maintenance. So the carriage roads up in Acadia National Park, they're stone dust, compressed stone dust, very charming. But from the months of March to May, they're closed because tire tracks get in it, rip it up. You constantly have to regrade it. Rain run, if you have a heavy rain, it will cause ruts and whatnot. So I do recommend paving. It's more money up front, but less maintenance down the road.
I have one more too. So if, I imagine there's not a grant to fund this whole project, is this something that we could phase, potentially look at the boardwalk through Bear Meadow, connect to Colebrook Boulevard, what we already have, and maybe build from there? Or is this like do the full feasibility and see how we can partition it up?
Yeah, I'd probably recommend do the full feasibility of it. That way you'll be able to break apart what you think is that you could afford at that time. So with the Mass DOT program, the TIP program, you might be able to fund a lot of it. And if we get a grant from the federal government, or even if we got an earmark from the Commonwealth, from the legislature, to fund a project like that, that sometimes happens too.
Write that one down, Mary Beth.
I don't want to even be funny, because I don't find this funny, but is the federal government lending blue states money now? Is that okay right now?
I won't get into that kind of specifics, but I will say right at the moment, there is a federal grant out there called the Build Grant that we are kind of targeting right at the moment for a project like that. Whether or not the federal government wants to recognize us, I'll say no comment.
Well, I think it's important for the people to know, because we do get feedback from the TV and the newspapers, and that's what people see. So I'm glad for you to be clear about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your time.
See you next
Thank you.
Thursday for breakfast.
Yeah. No, I won't be in attendance, I don't think. But I'll see you at Thanksgiving, though.
There you go.
That seems like a while away. Thank you for all your work.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Next on the agenda is set the meeting schedule.
We've got one more
before that.
OCPC presentation.
What?
Smart growth overlay bylaw.
Oh, okay. Act on referring the proposed smart growth overlay district zoning bylaw to the planning board for review at one of the upcoming meetings.
I lost you. Yeah,
What do we, who is this?
I know it.
What's that? I said the DeRosa from OCPC will speak on this.
Good evening.
What do we have?
So this request is just, I suppose, a formality to have the select board formally refer 40R zoning to the planning board so they can schedule a public hearing, which is part of the 40R process. To get it, on town meeting, the warrant at town meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
No, that's good.
All those in favor?
Aye, absolutely, easy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Now we can set the meeting schedule.
And Mr. Chairman, I think we're looking at the 10th and the
Pardon?
24th. The 10th and the 24th.
10th and then March 10th.
Yeah, we already have that on the 10th.
We have the 10th.
And, the 24th?
Yeah,
All right.
I already had them scheduled.
Yeah, I already had one.
They're already
I didn't have the
scheduled.
second.
Okay. Budget update? You have anything more you want to say, Mark?
No,
Meredith?
I think
That's, we exhausted that
we
time?
exhausted that.
Okay, administrator's report.
Yes. So you had asked at the last meeting about the ACO and what Laura had spoken about to bring you back like bite-sized pieces on the whole thing. So just to let you know, we did.
Do I need to step out? I don't want to do anything unethical.
No, I just don't think you could speak or vote
Okay.
without taking your hat off and going.
Okay,
down there.
I won't say one word.
So I did go over to the kennel
Yep.
with Kathy Keefe and Todd Ducuto. And we had done this too before the DPW moved back in to make sure the water was turned on and everything was, so that the ACO could go back and operate over there. But we did go in and the kennel was warm when we went in on the other day. The ceiling, some of the tiles were falling in insulation. So I asked Todd to get a price so we can get that fixed on that. I'm waiting for a quote from Todd on that. We looked at around the building a little bit. There's some work that needs to be done. Maybe the DPW can clean up some of the brush that's growing out. It looks like the fences need to be fixed out in back of the kennel. In the kennel, there's only a few double kennels. The rest are single kennels. And so we looked at all that, but it seems to be, warm. It seems to be functional. Get the ceilings fixed, look at the brush out back, get that cleaned up, and some of the fencing. And then a couple of other things that we did is I actually corresponded with Tom Hickey from
South Shore Vo-Tech,
South Shore Vo-Tech, yeah. Dan had mentioned it, and he reached out to me. And so he's going to stop by this week, maybe take him over, take some
I
pictures of
think
it.
it'll be tomorrow. He's
Yeah.
gonna call you.
And see what, if there's anything that they can do through the South Shore Vo-Tech, where I think we pay a % of the stock for them to come over, and maybe they can even design it and see, speaking with the ACOs and exactly what they would want to see, and take a look at the cost on that. And then I had met with the town of Hanson and the town of Abington a couple of times about doing a municipal agreement for the three towns. The way we were talking about it is we had the kennel, and Abington would maybe have the position over there and on their books, because somebody has to have the position, and then do we have the vehicle that can be shared, and do we have the kennel and all of that. So Scott Lambiase has moved on to Kingston, so now Michael Maresco's there. So I sent an email out to Michael Maresco to say, hey, we met a couple of times to talk about this. Would this be something you would be interested in revisiting? So I just sent that last week, waiting to hear back from him. And then Kathy had reached out on some grants. I know she was playing phone tag. I don't know.
Right, and so just a quick update on that. I spoke to Sherry Gustafson, who is in charge of the Animal Fund.
MDAR.
Yeah, and so when I described what we would be looking for, she said that fund really doesn't address that, but she said your best bet is your local legislature to reach out.
Okay.
And so we can do that.
We have put in as well with our state reps, there's work that's been done at the fire department for $30,000 of the COA. And for a couple of years, I have said, do you have any money that we can put towards the ACO? We have this new DPW. I'd like to see some work done there. And I know that Catherine Mullen called me and said, I didn't know you had a kennel in town, and my grandmother's lived here for, I said, yes, we most certainly do. But we haven't gotten anything on that, but I will still this year again, see if we can get that.
All right.
So that's the update that I have at this time from our last meeting.
Okay.
Carl, due to her saying so much I wasn't expecting, may I just step down and speak as ACO for a split second? Because I went through an awful lot, so since this meeting, but I want to just reiterate something, because Joe and I are going to point all this out on a PowerPoint on the 10th. But I cannot let it sit, the heat that I took.
Share the PowerPoint with Mary Beth before you.
Yes, absolutely. The heat that I took on 02382, I don't mind taking, but I just want to correct something. We cannot come and say that the animal control shelter had heat, because it had heat after our pipes, our water, everything was cut, shut off, destroyed, and Todd came in and fixed it. And seeing that the shelter has to have, there's the cross-contamination ditch we didn't address, and the stainless, sorry, I was distracted, the stainless steel. These things are the health. I've had a dog literally let themselves out of the shelter, go home. I've had a dog take
Why
their
don't we
hair
sa- why
off
don't
their
we save
face.
this for
So
the-
safety.
Why don't we save this for March
Right.
10th?
So
Why don't we save it for March 10th?
I
instead of-
agree. And but I want the public to know that I wished it was as neat and dry. But I'm extremely respectful and actually astonished at how quick that all came together, and very appreciative.
Okay, March 10th.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay. We need to go into, pardon me?
I have a couple more things, if I may, under the town administrators.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, sure.
actually,
Sure.
took care of the IMA agreement. Just one item I wanted to mention is we are part of the Community Electricity Aggregation Program, and in January, National Grid set their rates. So the town is receiving an electricity rate of 14.184, and National Grid set their rates at 15.372. So for everybody that's in the town's community electricity aggregation, we are lower than National Grid. And we hear this on the news all the time, electricity and gas rates going up. So I thought that was good news that we
Okay,
passed
good.
along.
Excellent.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We need to go into a couple of executive sessions. The first, pursuant to Mass General, I'm looking for my glasses. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. If the chair declines that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, we're going to be talking about Camp Alice Carlton. And then an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Exception 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general and special law or federal grant and aid requirements, to review and approve executive session minutes, 9/23/25, 10/07/25, and 10/28/25. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
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 Okay, we'll come back in open session only to adjourn.
Just let, also about taxing, do most of it except.